Hi, I'm Howard Berg, the world's fastest reader. I'd like to welcome you to Ultimate Reading Enrichment Lesson 1. First, let's take a quick look at what we'll be covering in today's enrichment lesson. First, we're going to practice doing the 16-minute drill that we learned in Ultimate Reading to increase our reading speed. Next, we're going to learn how to create a cognitive map. A cognitive map enables your brain to view text more visually and helps to increase reading speed and retention of information. We're going to practice doing cognitive mapping, and then I'm going to introduce you to a different type of 16-minute drill to offer you another way to increase your reading speed. And finally, we'll practice using the second type of 16-minute drill. Now, when we're doing a 16-minute drill to warm up, there's a reason, because every lesson, every day should start with a 16-minute drill warm-up to get you at the best possible reading speed right away. It helps to condition the brain to read faster. So right now, we're going to begin the 16-minute drill that we learned how to do in Ultimate Reading. And when we're done, we'll continue with today's lesson. This section requires you to read a portion of a book. Now you can use the Robinson Crusoe text provided or any other text you wish, but make sure you use simple text. Nothing complicated, no new words or ideas. This is a drill, not studying. So you want to use an exercise level reading that is not too hard for you to comprehend. Have your reading drill material ready or pause the program. Do this before you start this part of the program. When you're ready, continue. Now we're actually going to perform the 16-minute drill. Remember, during the first minute, read at your comprehension rate, the speed you can read and comprehend. In the second minute, double that rate. You should not be comprehending. It's twice as fast as you can comprehend. And in the third minute, triple your comprehension rate from the first minute. It's 3 times faster than you can comprehend, so you don't have any comprehension. When you go to the fourth minute, go back to reading at your peak comprehension rate, and you'll be amazed it'll be faster. We'll do this 4 times, 4 minutes each for 16 minutes. Your comprehension rate should increase slightly each time. Now remember, use your hands. Remember to use your hands, and remember to go backwards when you're doubling and tripling. It's optional when you're reading for comprehension. If you find you could read backwards for comprehension, use it. If you can't, go back to reading forwards. After each minute, continue wherever you left off. Again, we'll do this 4 times, 4 minutes each for 16 minutes. Pause the program. You start the program when you're ready to start the 16-minute drill. With your text in front of you, you're going to read at your comprehension speed. Get ready. Begin. $15. 30. 45. 55. Begin doubling. Double your speed, read backwards. Comprehension should be terrible. 15. Remember to use your hand. 30, 45, 55. Begin tripling. Read backwards 3 times faster than you can comprehend. Remember to use your hands. 15, 30, 45, 55. Begin reading at your comprehension speed, as fast as you can understand. Use your hands. 15, 30, 45, 55. Read at your comprehension speed. This is the second 4 minutes. 15. Remember to use your hand. 30, 45, 55. Begin doubling. Read backwards. Use your hand. 15, 30, 45, 55. Begin tripling. Read backwards. Use your hands. 15, 30, 45, 55, fourth minute, read at your comprehension rate, the rate at which you can understand. 15, 30, 45, 55. Begin reading at comprehension speed. This is the third set of drills. 15, 30, 45, 55. Begin doubling. Read backwards. 15, 30, 45, 55. Begin tripling. Read backwards. Make sure you're using your hands. 15, 30, 45, 55. Begin reading at your comprehension speed. Fourth minute. 30, 45, 55, read at your comprehension speed. 15, 30, 45, 55. Begin doubling. Read backwards. Use your hand. 15, 30, 45, 55. Triple your speed. Go backwards. Use your hand. 15, 30, 45, 55. Last minute. Read at your comprehension speed. Use your hands. 15, 30, 45, 55. Stop. In your next lesson, you'll learn how to use schema to increase your reading speed and improve your comprehension. Now we're ready to begin our exciting introduction to what are cognitive maps. Cognitive maps takes advantage of the fact that your brain is a visual computer, and pictures can store data more efficiently than words because they're analog, so they take in everything at the same time. Just to be so in ultimate reading, when you read The Road as a movie, it was more efficient than reading in a book where you heard words one word at a time. Cognitive mapping transforms text into a picture map immediately, which is exactly what you're trying to do to increase your reading speed. Let's learn how to create cognitive maps. First thing we want to do is to take a pen and pad and create a circle in the middle of the paper, and that'll be our main concept. So we're just doing it right here in still motion so you could actually see the main concept expressed as a circle. Next, after we draw the shape and place it in the center of the page and label it, we're going to put in the main categories. And we just create spokes coming from the main idea. They could be straight or curved, and you can label them. And so in this case, I've just made them generic, and I've listed 4 categories coming out of the main concept. Next, we're looking at the main examples branching out from the categories. So all I've done is add these examples on branches coming off of each category. And it's really easy to draw, and I've put them in different colors just so it'd be easier for you to see. I'm just using lines, and they could be at different angles. This allows me to put more information into a limited space. And of course, I'm going to label them with more specifics later when we go into a particular topic, which I will demonstrate to you today. Lastly, we want to look at the details that fall under the examples. And I add the details to the examples on branches. What I'm going to do now is actually a video that demonstrates what I've just demonstrated in slow motion, so you can see it being done in a very logical and concise way. And then I'll give you an opportunity to practice exactly what you just learned. So let's learn to draw a cognitive map together. Go into the middle of our pad. We'll just draw a big circle to get started. And let's label this circle main concept. Fortunately, I'm not teaching calligraphy. And we're just going to get some main categories coming off the concept. I'm just going to make some spokes that'll represent the categories. I'll just label this one CAT1, category 1, CAT2, category 2. We'll make this CAT, category 3, and CAT, category 4. I'll actually do an actual outline with you in a moment, so you can actually see how it works when we're doing a real one. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at category 1, and we're going to add some main examples. Okay, I'm just going to go here and go EX1, example 1, go over here, make this a little bit of a curve. Example 2, we'll make one more, EX3. And similarly, you can make examples wherever you want on any of the other categories. I'm just not going to label these. I'm just showing you how easy it is to extend and create more examples. And the final thing that we were looking at was the main details. So we go to example and we can create a detail. We'll just call it detail 1 and detail 2. Now you're really not limited to 4 levels. If for some reason you see more organizational need, you could always add another branch even to a detail or to a sub branch. It's really easy to do. All I need to do is just continue to add branches. We can do this to any of the other branches as well. It's just really easy to do. Of course, as long as the information falls into that position in terms of its organizational structure, there's no reason why you can't do it. I just try to keep it simple by demonstrating 4 primary levels, but you're not limited to anything that your creativity can come up with. Now that you've seen me create a basic cognitive map, I'd like you to take a pen and paper. I'd like you to repeat all the steps you just observed. I want you to draw a circle in the center for the main concept. Draw the spokes coming out for the main categories, then the spokes coming out for the main examples, and then spokes coming out for the main details. And when you're done doing that, continue with your lesson. Now we're ready to actually practice making a cognitive map in a real piece of text. We're going to use the practice example given in this unit in the War of 1812, which is a history lesson. And what we're going to do is go to your practice reading section about the War of 1812 for our next example. And I will demonstrate how to convert this text into a cognitive map. And when we're done, I'm going to give you the opportunity to practice doing it for yourself. Let's look at the video. So now we're going to get some practice creating a cognitive map in actual subject matter area. And we see here in our workbooks, practice reading in subject matter area, we see history, the War of 1812. So the main theme that we want to work with to begin with is the War of 1812. So in the middle of the page, we're going to put a main concept of war and 1812. Next, we're looking for our main categories, and the main categories tend to be the headers that we see in the text. The first thing we see is the attack on Canada. So we're going to make a very long spoke. I'll make it curved so it's easy to fill in, and we'll see attack on Canada. And under the attack on Canada, we next see that many Americans believed it would be easy. So let's make that our next concept under attack on Canada. And we'll make a big spoke here. Many thought easy. Okay, and here are the reasons that many thought it would be easy. First, and we're going to create another line, low population. Low population. The second reason was French Canadians didn't like the English. England didn't like the English. And the third reason was population near the U.S. Most of the big population centers were near the U.S. And it's the example that they give. You can go to the next level. It was Montreal, and it was 30 miles. So we have our first main concept, the attack on Canada. Many thought it would be easy. There were three reasons: low population, not pro-England, population was near the U.S., large part of it, and a good example of that was, as detail, Montreal was only 30 miles away. Okay, but things didn't go the way they planned. So now let's look, make a second spoke off of the attack, and we'll make a big spoke here, and failed. And we're going to see what caused the failure. And some of the reasons for the failure were, and they give you here, U.S. not prepared. Okay. And as an example of that, only 6,000 soldiers. It's Not a whole lot of soldiers. And second example were U.S. leaders old. The experienced military leaders were old, and there were too many leaders. There wasn't a single leader. So we got to put that in as another reason that there was a problem was the U.S. Let's see, go right to the spoke. No one leader. So they failed. Why did they fail? They failed because the U.S. wasn't prepared. The U.S. leaders were old. There wasn't a single leader, and there was only 6,000 soldiers that were ready to even begin to fight. Now we go back into the material, and we're going to look at the failure of the militia. So we'll go back into our document, and we'll create another category right here. And it will be titled Failure of Militia. Now, let's see. First thing we saw here is many refused troops. So many of the governors refused to provide the president with troops. Second problem that happened was New York. The New York militia refused to go to Canada. That would be a big problem since they were right by Canada. And they were poorly trained. And the people who did go, the last thing we want to look at was poorly trained. So, the failure of the militia was due to several things. Many refused to send troops, New York refused to go to Canada, and the troops were poorly trained. Then we got to look at the next thing, which was Canada's military preparedness. Go back to our central idea. We'll make a big spoke, put it out here, Canada. And let's see what Canada's military preparedness was. They conquered Detroit, and data line, and they also conquered 2 forts on Lake Michigan. And Canada also repelled the U.S. invasion. And so you could see here exactly what I'm doing as I'm creating my map directly out of the material. We took the main concept, which was the War of 1812. We looked at the main categories. We looked at the main examples, and then we got the details. And this is an excellent way to create a cognitive map. However, I personally prefer to use software to create my cognitive map. And the next thing I'm going to do is introduce you to some software that I think is outstanding for doing just that. One of the drawbacks to this for me is I don't have a very good handwriting, as I think you can see from my map. And many other people have the same problem. Also, in addition to having better clarity when using software, it allows us to compress more data into a small area. So in our next lesson, I'm going to demonstrate software that's ideally suited for creating cognitive maps. Cognitive mapping software is easily available online. I prefer a program called My Manager, which you can Google, and I find it's very powerful, has a lot of features that I like to use, and many of the people that I work with prefer using it. There's also a free program online that's called FreeMind. Again, you can Google FreeMind and use that, although my preference is My Manager. Let me do a demonstration now of how to use My Manager. Today, I'm going to demonstrate My Manager, which is one of my favorite programs for doing cognitive mapping. And all I'm going to do is press New Document, and it immediately brings up my main concept. And I'm going to label the box in the center Main Concept. Now, in order to make my first branch, which be my categories, I just press the Insert key once, and there I see Category 1. Just press the Enter key, and it automatically puts in another branch from the main concept, which I'll make Category 2, and I'll do one more, Category 3, and all I'm doing is pressing the Enter key, and it's automatically working on that same level. So we have 4 categories, just like we did before. Now what I want to do for my categories, you want to go to the main examples. So I'm just going to go to Category 1, and wherever it is that I'm on, whatever branch I'm on, if I press the Insert key, it creates the sub-branch to that particular location. Pressing Insert on Category 1 creates my first main example 1. I'm just going to press the Enter key and get main example 2, and I'll press the Enter key one more time and I get main example 3. And every time I press the Enter key, it's going to continue adding on that level on that category. If I want to go somewhere else, like say Category 3, and I press the Insert key, again, I can easily go main example 1, enter, main example 2, enter, main example 3. You see how fast it is and how easy it is? Now, let's say I want to put some details on main example 3 on Category 1. I just go on that branch, press Insert, and I can have Detail 1, press Enter, Detail 2, press Enter, and Detail 3. What's particularly nice about this is if suddenly something pops into your head and you realize you want to go somewhere else and work on that other level, you can easily click anywhere and begin working at that location. For example, I want to make a main example and I want to create a detail. There we go, Detail 1. So it's really easy to work with. It's easy to create. It's easy to set up. Everything is very flexible. Things can be moved around very easily. And this enables me to use my computer to do a lot of the work that I was doing before using my hands. What I'm going to do in our next section is demonstrate this using the War of 1812 once more, but this time we're going to make the conceptual map using My Manager. Once again, we're going to do a cognitive map of the War of 1812, but this time I'm going to use the My Manager program instead of using my simulation of a pad and paper. So first we have our main concept, and that's the War of 1812. And now that I've got my main concept, I press the Insert key and I get my first main branch, which is Attack on Canada. And we look under Attack on Canada and we see Insert. Many thought it would be easy. And we could see several reasons why they thought it would be easy. So I'm going to press the Insert key. The first reason why they thought it was easy was Canada had a low population. Second, we're going to press Enter. French Canadians didn't like the English. Third reason, many major settlements were near the U.S. border. Notice how much more information I'm able to put in because I'm typing. I don't have to abbreviate as much. It's a lot easier to do. And we saw one example was, I'm going to put it under being near the border, Montreal. And Montreal, I'm going to do an insert, was go back. It's going to go on Montreal and press insert, was near the border, 30 miles from New York State. So we just captured that information fairly quickly. Now, the next thing we see, I'm going to go back under attack on Canada, and the next major branch here is Canada withstood the invasion attempts. And let's see what some of the categories are under that. So we press under that. And by the way, to delete, I just press delete. It's pretty easy to get rid of something if I make a mistake. I press insert. And first we see U.S. Army was unqualified to launch an assault. And we see several reasons why. We're going to press insert. And the first reason why, standing army of only 6,000. The first reason, I press enter. Soldiers scattered along frontier. Top, we had old commanders. No one general in command to coordinate. Okay, so now we've gotten all that information. We go back, and now we're going back to the War of 1812, and the next major branch is the failure of militia. And under the failure of militia, we're going to do an insert. Go back, that didn't work, so I'm going to delete that. I'm going to press Control Z to delete it. Failure of militia, and I'm going to press insert. And Madison requested states to supply troops. New York militia refused to invade Canada. Militia were poorly trained. They lacked discipline. Okay, so next we go back to Canada's military preparedness. I press insert. Canadian military preparedness. And I'm going to press enter, and first we see excellent leadership. They quickly conquered Detroit, conquered 2 forts on Lake Michigan, turned back American attack. Okay, and so now what you can see is by using my manager, I was able to very quickly take the notes that I did before using a pen and pad, but notice a few things that are substantial improvements. One, it's a lot easier to read. Because I'm typing, I can fit in more details. I didn't have to abbreviate as much as I did before. I also have it laid out very easy for me to follow. And I could easily skip from one area to the other just by clicking on a branch. I could easily insert there and go somewhere else and insert somewhere else as an idea strikes me. This makes it very easy to work with Mind Manager. So when I'm doing cognitive mapping, I tend to use Mind Manager for my own personal work because I find that it's faster, it's easier for me to use, and it's more easily read when I'm done. So I highly recommend you consider investing in Mind Manager. And remember, you could also use the free mapping software that I discussed earlier as another option. Now it's your turn to replicate what you just observed me doing using the sample text on the War of 1812. I'd like you to draw a cognitive map, make it similar to the one I just created, and when you're comfortable with the procedure for doing this, continue with the program. Now we're ready to learn the new 16-minute drill exercise. You're going to need some paper clips to do this exercise and also a familiar nonfiction book. When you have these items, continue with the program. This is a map of what the new drill looks like. In the first minute you read it, your peak comprehension rate, and what you're going to do is put a paper clip where you begin. Usually it's the first page of chapter 1, that would be point A. And at the end of the minute, wherever you finish, that's where you put your second paper clip, and that would be point B. Then what you're going to do is measure how many pages you just read, and you're going to count off an equal number of pages so that you put another paper clip that many pages away from point B and then that many pages away from point C. So let's say, for example, in the first minute you read 2 pages, then you're going to put a paper clip there. Then that's page B. You're going to count forward 2 pages. That's going to be page C. And you're going to count forward 2 pages, and that's going to be page D. And of course, how far you move depends on how many pages you read. And what you're doing is you're creating sections that are equal in length. For the first minute, you're going to read your peak comprehension rate. The second minute, you double, and your goal is to reach the end of section to point C. And the third minute, you want to get to the very last paper clip. Now, when you go into the fourth minute, after having read in the third minute at triple speed, in the fourth minute, you go back to point A where you started, and you read at your peak comprehension rate to wherever it is, which is called point E. Now, notice the difference here from the original 16-minute drill. In the last 16-minute drill that you learned in Ultimate Reading, at the end of each minute, you started reading wherever you finished, and you kept reading in new sections all the time. In this drill, you're continuously going back in each 4 minutes to your starting page, which would be, in this case, page A. So we're going in the first minute from A to B. In the second minute, we go back to A, and we read from A to B to C, which is double the number of pages. We go back to page A, which is our first page. We read all the way to point D, which is triple the distance. And then in the fourth minute for comprehension, we go all the way back to the first page where we started, and we read as fast as we can for comprehension to point D. Then we begin the next 4 minutes. Wherever we finished at the end of this 4 minutes, we take all the paper clips out, we mark off the page that we ended on, and that becomes a new starting point. And the process continues over again. Let me show you this again in a table. First, you're going to put a paper clip on your first page that you're reading. Generally, when we start, we usually start on the first page of chapter 1. The end of a minute, you're going to stop and place a second paper clip at your ending point, wherever that is. You're going to stop and count how many pages you just read. Now move forward from that second clip, which would be point B, the number of pages you've read, and place another clip to mark off where your doubled speed ending point will be, because it's twice as long. Clip that page. Now again, move forward from this clip, the same number of pages you just moved, to find your triple speed ending point. Then you're going to read from the beginning, after you tripled, at your comprehension rate, wherever your ending point is at the end of minute 4, that becomes your new starting point for the next 4 minutes. You remove all of the clips that you had except A new clip is placed at this new ending point and the process starts over again. And as we do this exercise, I'll talk you through it so you know exactly what you need to do. I'll make it as clear as I can to make it easy for you to follow. So get ready to begin the new 16-minute exercise. Well, now we're ready to begin practicing our new 16-minute drill. I want you to go to the first page of chapter 1 and place a paper clip there. I want you to get ready, and you're going to read for 1 minute at your comprehension speed when I tell you to begin. Ready? Begin. Remember to use your hands. And stop. Now, place a paper clip on the page we just finished. Count the number of pages between your two paper clips. Now go to the spot where you just finished, where you put your paper clip, and count forward the same number of pages as you've just completed. When you've done that, put in your second paper clip. This is the position you're reading to. This would be point C that you're reading to during your doubled second minute. Put a clip there, and then again count forward the same number of pages as you read in the first minute, and place your final paper clip. This is the position that you're targeting in your tripled speed during minute 3. Now go back to your first paper clip where you began. Begin reading to your doubled end position, doubled position where the paper clip is that you just placed, and you're going to read twice as fast, reading backwards. Ready? Begin. Remember to use your hands. And stop. Go back to your first paper clip. This is the third minute. You're going to read at triple speed to the final last paper clip. Read backwards, use your hands. Ready, begin. Triple speed. Stop. Go back to your first paperclip. This is the 4th minute. Read at your peak comprehension rate. Ready? Begin. And stop. Now I want you to put a paper clip where you just finished and remove all of the other paper clips that you've placed in your book. This becomes your new starting point. You're going to read from this point for 1 minute at your peak comprehension rate. Using your hand. Ready? Begin. Stop. Place a paper clip on the page where you've just finished reading. Count the number of pages between your first clip and where you're now located. And then count forward from the second clip the same number of pages as you just completed. Place a paper clip at that position, and that is the spot you're going to read to during your 2nd minute when you doubled. Now count forward from that clip, same number of pages as you read in the 1st minute, and place a paper clip at this location. This represents your ending position for your tripled speed. When you've completed this, continue the drill. Now go back to your initial paper clip, and you're going to read for 1 minute at your doubled speed. And you're going to read to the paper clip that represents twice as far as you did in the 1st minute. Get ready to double using your hand, going backwards. Ready? Begin. Remember to use your hands and go backwards. Stop. Go to your first paper clip. You're going to read at your triple speed, going backwards to the last paper clip. Ready? Triple speed, last paper clip. Begin. and stop. Go back to your first paper clip. I'm going to read for 1 minute at your peak comprehension speed. Ready? Begin. And stop. Now, I want you to put a paper clip on the page where you just finished. You remove all the other paper clips that you've placed in your book. This becomes the new starting point for the next 4 minutes. Go to that position and you're going to read for 1 minute at your peak comprehension rate in a moment. Get ready. Your peak comprehension rate. Begin. Remember to use your hands. And stop. Place a paper clip on the page where you just finished. Count how many pages you've read in the last minute. Then count forward from this new paper clip the same number of pages, put in a new paper clip, and that's your ending position for minute 2 when you doubled. Put a clip there, and then again count forward the same number of pages as you just read in the first minute, and put another clip at that position, and that'll be your target position for your tripled speed. When you've done that, return to the first paper clip. Going to read for 1 minute at our doubled rate. Going to target the clip that represents our doubled position. Ready to double, reading backwards, using your hand. Ready, begin. Stop. Go back to your first paper clip. This time we're going to read at triple speed to our last paper clip. Remember to use your hand and read backwards. Ready, begin. Triple speed. stop. Go back to your first paper clip. You're going to read for 1 minute at your peak comprehension rate. Ready? Begin. And stop. Now place a paper clip on the page you were just reading and remove all the other paper clips you put in your book. You're going to be starting your last 4-minute drill, and you're going to read for 1 minute at your peak comprehension rate, starting at the position of the current clip. Ready? Begin. Remember to use your hands. And stop. Now place a paper clip where you just finished. Count the number of pages between your first paper clip and where you are now, and then count forward that number of pages from this paper clip and mark it off with another paper clip. This represents your goal in the end of the second minute for doubled speed. And continue after you put the clip there, counting forward the same number of pages that you read in the first minute, and put in another paper clip. This represents your target for the end of your third minute, your tripled speed. When you've done that, you're ready to begin. Now, go back to your first paper clip and begin reading at your doubled speed to your target for your doubled represented area. It would be a paper clip that represents the double portion. Reading backwards using your hand. Ready? Read backwards, doubled speed, begin. And stop. Go to your first paper clip. Read to your last paper clip at triple speed. Use your hand, go backwards. Ready? Begin. and stop. Go back to your first paperclip. This is the last minute. Read forward as fast as you can at your comprehension speed. Ready? Begin. And stop. This completes the 16-minute drill. Well, we're almost done with our first enrichment lesson. Let's do a quick summary of what we've learned. We practiced our familiar 16-minute drill. We learned about how to create a cognitive map. We practiced creating cognitive maps. And we were introduced to the second type of 16-minute drill. And then we practiced using the second 16-minute drill type. Last thing I'm going to do is a cognitive map of our lesson summary, and then we're off to the next enrichment lesson. Finally, let's do a cognitive map outlining what we've learned in lesson 1. First, we'll do an insert. Go to lesson 1, press insert, and we had a 16-minute drill warm-up. Press enter. The second thing we learned was how to create a cognitive map. Press enter. We had cognitive mapping practice. Press enter. We had the introduction to second type of 16-minute drill, and lastly we practiced using the 16-minute drill type 2. So now we've actually created a mind map of lesson 1, and all the future lessons that's what I intend to do, so that we get more practice doing the mapping, so we don't just write things out but we also map them. And that'll get us better at mapping because we're using it when we're actually doing something in the program. See you in the next lesson.